Brad Gilmore, ESPN Radio. And we're here talking about Psych 3. This is Gus. I have Maggie Lawson right here joining me. Maggie, how you doing?
I'm great. I love your background. The movie. Yeah, it's awesome. So,
I'm trying my best here in this virtual world that we're living in.
I know.
But we're here. We're at Psych 3. And maybe a month ago, I put the entire series on, the whole Psych run. I did a whole rewatch. And it's interesting because I forgot that you weren't in the pilot.
Yeah.
You came in episode 2. You're like Juliet Louis-Dreyfus in Seinfeld. She wasn't in the pilot. She came out in episode 2. Right?
That's so nice. But yes, yeah.
So let me start there real quick. Just kind of your quick genesis of the character. When you saw the script for Psych, your first episode, I think, was the spelling bee.
Yeah.
What was your first impressions of it? What was your impression of the show?
Well, my audition scene was actually the diner scene from Spelling Bee that's in the very, very, very beginning. So when we meet Juliet, and I just learned recently that was just written for the audition. I don't think he ever intended to have it in the script. They just needed something for me to read or for actors to read because it was a new character. Because even though the woman in the pilot, the character's name was Lucinda, and she was having an affair with Lassiter, and so my character was like completely different. And Steve wrote that, and I just remember the back and forth of it is so funny in that scene. But also when I read and when I tested for the character, I read with James, who I didn't know. And he used the voice or a version of the voice he uses in that diner scene. So we kind of cracked up and we got to have it honestly was one of the most fun kind of improv-y auditions I think I'd ever had. And I remember just being like, oh man, I would just give anything to work with people like this. James and Steve was there as well, cause it was so fun and easy and collaborative and very cool. It's just funny because I feel like at that time in my life and also my career, no one was really seeing me for a detective necessarily. I don't think anybody was taking me seriously that way. So the fact that they did, and I just remember reading the script and being like, man, I've not read or seen anything like this before, actually. And I actually think it was the first time we heard they started calling these 1 hour kind of comedy dramas dramedies.
Right.
Yeah. And Monk was that at the time or whatever. So it was a whole thing because I love doing comedy too. But at the time I wanted to do something a little more serious. So I still can't believe they saw me for that role or took me seriously in it. But it really was one of the sweetest scenes, that diner scene.
Yeah, no, it's actually a really great introduction to the character. Spelling Bee is actually one of my favorite episodes. But
so good.
It's a really good show.
Banana.
Banana. When you're going through this show, and I'm sure you're having fun on set, everyone loves it. Loves working on it. Audience seems to like it. Did you think they would have the legs that it did go through the 8 seasons?
I feel like in the beginning, I did remember thinking okay, this feels different. This feels special. Felt like people-wise. But, you meet people and you do pilots or shows. You never know where they're going to go. And I think it's like a miracle these days, especially on any network show or whatever, that it goes past a season. So at the time, I think we were like, let's just be present in this and enjoy the ride. I remember the first season didn't want to buy a place. Everyone was like, you should buy a place in Vancouver. You guys are going to be there for a while. And none of us wanted to jinx anything.
Right.
Because we didn't know. We hoped and it felt really special, but there are all these other factors, that come into play sometimes. So when we first got that season 2 pickup, I think all of us were shocked. None of us but Dule at that point had ever had a season 2 of a show. Or anything like Psych, definitely, or anything that even had the fan excitement that Psych had. So, I think after that moment, we were like, okay, let's do everything we can to stay here as long as we can. And we're still here. So.
And 8 seasons of musical and 3 movies later, right?
We were talking about this the other day too, how just all the stuff they let us do. We remade an entire episode in season 8 that we did in season 1, Cloudy Chance of Murder or whatever. Like, who does that? Anyway, but that just says so much about our writers too. And I also think with these movies, you know, we're getting into, especially with Tim and what we deal with him in this movie, there's a lot of like grown up, like Psych's growing up, and there's a lot of life stuff they're bringing into it, even in the chaos and the crazy and the funny that is Psych. I feel like the writers do such a good job of bringing in, you know, that sort of grounding emotional stuff as well.
Before they made me, or before they wrap me up here, I did want to ask about Juliet's kind of evolution, because for a long time, I feel like you and Kirsten were in a similar role to where you were kind of the straight people on the show, setting up the jokes. And then somewhere around the talk derby to me, or maybe that's the first time I noticed it, you really started to kind of dive in and become more of the comedy side for Juliet. Yeah. Did you enjoy that kind of transition and to be a little bit more silly?
That was so fun. To be able to do both was so fun, because I feel like I got to like slip into these undercover characters, you know, and talk derby or Scary Sherry, or, you know, and go almost like too far with them. And as you said, get to sort of play the comedy, but also have the straight episodes and all that as well, setting up the kind of what you're saying, setting up the jokes. And then also like the yin yang trilogy and the yin stuff with Lassiter. I mean, what they wrote for us was so crazy. Yes, I love comedy and I love doing comedy. So by the end of season 1, when they did Scary Sherry, and then going into season 2, and then definitely by Talk Derby to me, I felt like they were really, really writing to that stuff, which just made it, I mean, it's like every actor's dream, you know, you get to do all of it, which is fun. It was so fun.
Yeah, the show's still fun. This is Gus. The end, I won't spoil it, but there's the ending scene there. It's just when y'all, I won't say anything, but there's a scene there that's just complete chaos and crazy, and I absolutely love everything there is to love about it.
Thank you. You're so sweet. And I have to just add on to that. I didn't know that James and Dule, I already know they're both geniuses and they're so funny. You know, this is a different gear that they go into. I was watching, and I won't give anything away either, but I'm sort of in the scene, but a little bit on the outside of the scene for a lot of the scene. And for 2 days, I watched them do some of the craziest, silliest, but like, I mean, it's next level, the comedy they're bringing. It's so good. Anyway, so I'm adding on to what you're saying. Yeah.
This is Gus, Psych 3 on Peacock, November the 18th. Maggie Lawson, thank you so much.